Uh, Let me first of all take this opportunity to welcome Professor Deep and Sean from Melbourne. Thank you very much for coming back and sharing your experience with us. Certainly my colleagues from IUM, staff, brothers and sisters. I guess this is a very important moment for us to come together, try to understand where are we heading as far as technology is concerned, in particular this word AI that has been used almost every other day and every other minute. And we are trying to understand, every time trying to understand what this AI is all about. One of the best articulation that I've heard is somebody, an expert, saying that AI and artificial intelligence, it is neither artificial nor intelligent. So that puts me in a bind and what to understand about this, let alone to make a decision on how to progress is something that all of us must come together. So I'm very grateful that Professor Atif is here today to kickstart the discussion, although there has been a number of discussions within the university, but we have not come into a decision of how to do this. Certainly, there are many factors that needs to be considered. Yes, this morning I was reading, I think the Europeans are already coming with a group to decide what is possible, what is not possible, where are the ethics, and so on and so forth. Also inviting the non-European countries to come along. Yeah. Being an Islamic university, I think we have a special role to play in other words to understand where Islam is in all this dimension of this so-called AI. I was just telling Professor Atif, when you talk about artificial intelligence, we Muslims understand there's also primordial intelligence, which I thought it is another form of AI, but written by somebody else, not by a human being perhaps, which we have been told that, and it is one of the moral compass or the ethical bearings that we need to be sensitive to. If that is the case, then where do you put AI that is created for us by somebody else, whether those values, whether those moral imperatives and the ethical dimensions are also embedded. So those are the issues that I think we are trying to understand which one comes first, where do you place things of this nature. This university, Sean, for your information, although you have been here for a while, I think we are quite set in trying to integrate knowledge together, be it the real knowledge that comes from the divine or the human knowledge that comes from science. How do you integrate that so that we don't have a kind of a schizophrenic view of whose knowledge are we doing and for what purpose? And certainly for this university, the vision is for the betterment of human life and civilization. In other words, although this is an Islamic university, we don't talk about Islam for the Muslims, we talk about Islam for everybody else. So it is the Muslims and non-Muslim, and not only the human, but also the non-human comes into there. So how do you put this into a perspective? It's something that we are doing it in a very systematic fashion. But once AI comes in, where you almost lose control over what is supposed to be said and how decisions are supposed to be made, is a new ball game for us that we need to talk about. Okay? So in the context of leadership, for example, again in Islam, we believe that everybody is a leader. The Prophet say, everybody is leader, you attend to your own flock. In other words, if you've got a family, then you need to manage your family. If there's no family, then you yourself, you need to manage yourself as a leader. In other words, the idea of leadership in Islam is almost everybody is a leader. There's no one man that stands up front and tells you what to do, although that seems to be the case in reality. But we're supposed to self-direct ourselves in this particular context. Now, come AI, come ChatGPT, what is the definition of leadership in this particular context? Yeah. So these are the few issues that I think we are not worried about, but asking ourselves where this comes into being once AI becomes the predominant way of thinking or doing things and things like that. My own personal reservation is that AI could be another form of colonialism. You know, at one time we were colonized, and there are people who come and tell us what to do and so on and so forth. But very soon, these people may not be around. They just send the AI to you, and if you think this is the only way to do things, then you are directly or indirectly being colonized. And I think this is what the world is all about now. It looks as though that the kind of power device is about who colonized whom at the end of the day. And I think these are issues that I think should concern us as the university, because we need to decide what the future looks like for our students and also for the community that comes. So, Prof. Atif, we are relying on you. Hopefully, we can come up with some answers, and we can work together. And the university is indeed very happy to work with you. And we have been also talking to other groups. Prof. Norbin has just come back from Kazan. There's another group that we are engaging. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we can come to some sort of understanding of where we should be and what we should be. Thank you very much. And I would like to welcome all of you to this important event. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallahu khairan, thanks for gracing us with your presence at KICT, and thank you for your welcoming remarks. Next, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Zurina Abdul Ghani, Senior Deputy Director of the Office for Strategy and Institutional Change, or SIC IIUM, to brief about the IIUM's Transformative Leadership Program. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Zurina.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Do you mind if I just sit down here and share my slides with you? All right. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Tan Sri, Prof. Atif, Prof. Nobi, Dr. Muhammad, Sean, all right, and everyone. My lovely sister, Prof. Murni, all right. And my fellow students, alhamdulillah. So we are here today to share before Prof. Atif deliver his thought. So I would love to share just a view of values-based leadership, inshallah, for higher education excellence and sustainable society. Just now, Tan Sri mentioned about artificial intelligence. So this is very much connected with AI when it comes to values-based leadership, because we are talking about integrity, we are talking about KICT, we are talking about using your wisdom as in fitrah that we are made by God, right? Not relying on AI per se, right? So using AI in the best manner, inshallah. Okay, mine is only 10 minutes, so I have to go very fast, okay? Bear with me, all right. Okay, the outline of presentation will be, I'm going to just briefly highlight to you why we need values-based leadership. We are talking about IUM lays on that and the strategic direction. Okay, now IUM strategic direction is humanizing leadership through Maqasid Sharia and SDGs. Okay, and also what would be the objectives of VBL, that is values-based leadership. And then I'll introduce to you our coming, inshallah, biiznillah, IUM Leadership Center. And also I'm going to highlight BBL activities, what we have done and what we are going to do as well. And it's important when it comes to the university vision and mission. And then BBL is actually one of the platforms that we are going to achieve our University for Community agenda. All right. Basically, I am raised on that. Okay, I'll just go straight to the English version. We are talking about nurturing holistic leaders. We are talking about nurturing leaders for the Muslim Ummah. Okay, when you talk about the Muslim Ummah, we are talking about also including everyone that is under our supervision. All right. So IUM has been producing or nurturing leaders all over the world, and we have our students all over the world now heading ministries, heading countries, heading departments and banks and other institutions, all right? So basically, one of the niche area of IIUM is actually leadership, right? Okay, we are talking about leaders, okay, for this session, BBL, because why? Why values-based leadership? We want our leaders to be there and do whatever that they have to do for the community. And when you are not around, we are not around anymore, they can still feel whatever that you have left. Okay, they can still feel the legacy that you leave behind. Okay, and the legacy is not for yourself, but it is for the community at large, right? Okay, this is our missions. I will not go through this. Okay, for Prof. Atif and Sean's benefit, we have 7 missions. Okay, but we have simplified into inspiring Khalifah for Rahmatan lil Alamin. What is Rahmatan lil Alamin? It's about mercy to all the worlds. So we are talking about for other people, for our colleagues, to those with us and those far from us, and also to the Habluminan Alam. When we talk about Habluminan Alam, it's about for the greens, for the forests, for the animals, for the planet, right? Okay, that is what Rahmatan lil Alamin it is. So we want our student to become such, okay? Okay, now this is Falsafah Pihak Kebangsaan. This is actually our national education policy. So this value-based leadership, my narration is more of the higher education sector, but then it is about also how we want to be relevant and connected to the institution of science, right? To the industry. So we are talking about individuals who are intellectually and spiritually balanced and harmonious. Okay, when you are balanced in yourself, then you will spark the positive aura and values to others. Okay, this is due to your devotion to God. You understand why you are here, why we are here in this world, and what is our responsibility. So we are talking about amanah, we are talking about justice. Okay, we are talking about being there as a leader and do everything with integrity because of seeking the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. Ridwan. Okay, this is our IIUM educational goal. Graduates who are in science sejahtera. Okay, this is Tan Sri's forte actually when it comes to sejahtera. Okay, it's about being balanced inside out. Okay, we are talking about committed to Islamic values and practice. Okay, when we talk about Islamic values and practice, we're talking about all the positive values that a man can have. Okay, and as Francis mentioned just now, it is our fitrah. We are born. We want all the positive things. We want we like beautiful things. We like good smells. We like wealth and all that. So all these positive things and values and practices, this is what we want in our students, so that they will become a holistic person. Okay, they will be a human first, then only they become doctors or lawyers or engineers and others, right? Okay, what will be the objectives of values-based leadership? We are talking about nurturing humanized leaders equipped with required competencies. You might be leaders, but you do not have the competencies, okay? And you might be a leaders, but you do not have a part of competencies that actually, say like AI. I do not have much competencies about AI or IT and all that. I'm not at that IT savvy, but when you talk about values-based leaders, we can identify persons that actually can be empowered to perform the task. And trust is all about values-based, okay? You need to have trust, because when it comes to empowerment, it will be difficult if you do not have trust, okay? All right. When you have read all the required competencies, then you'll be ready for critical positions or critical talent in any form of office or functions that you will perform. Okay, so to have a talent that is ready, you need to have cultural intelligence, okay? Part of the competencies, you need cultural intelligence. And also we are propagating spiritual intelligence. Why spiritual intelligence? Because when you have spiritual intelligence, then you know the purpose of your existence in this world and the purpose of why you become leaders in such place, okay? All right, these are all because we want to have higher education institution sustainability. Okay, moving forward, we need, I believe everyone is very familiar with Maslow hierarchy of needs. So when it comes to the employee engagement context per se, okay, we want our colleagues, we don't call staff or employees or whatnot, because we want to treat our employees of our subordinates as our colleagues, okay? So we want them to become this highly engaged person, a person who will wake up in the morning, inshallah, and say to themselves, okay, what I can do for others today. What is it? This is my skills and what I can give to others, okay? Talking about helping others to climb the ladder, okay? Not leaving anyone behind, okay? Because that would be value space where you meraihkan kepelbagaian. You address all the different competencies and levels and abilities of others. Okay, all right. Okay, just now I've mentioned about required competencies. So I'm going to share the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education's Leadership Competency Framework. We are talking about 5 clusters altogether. That is personal effectiveness, cognition, leading others, impact and influence, and also achievement actions. So Prof. Atif, as you can see here, okay, they do not mention anything about AI. All right, so but we have addressed this also. Universities to address. Okay, these competencies is derived from findings that they did through research and also intellectual discourse with subject matter experts locally and internationally. Okay, and I'm not sure why laptop is reconnected. I'm not sure. See, I'm so sorry. It is disconnected. Okay. Sorry, I have to share it again. Sorry everyone. Okay. Share it again. Okay. Yeah. So to compare with what we have in IIUM, okay, IIUM connected. Compare with IIUM, we have 17 competencies altogether, right? And clustered four clusters. This one was developed by the subject matter experts, local subject, internal subject matter experts in IIUM, and this is I use this from the sources from Management Services Division. So this is what we have. 17 altogether, okay, from influential communication up until leveraging resources, okay. So you're talking about Khalifah, Amanah, Iqra, Rahmatan lil Alamin. Okay, for your understanding, Sean, Khalifah is about leaders, okay. Amanah is trustworthy, and then Iqra is read. Okay, and also being knowledgeable, okay, and Rahmatan lil Alamin just now mentioned mercy to all the worlds, right? Okay, this is the proficiency level when it comes to competency framework. So you have proficiency level number 1. This is for self-proficiency only for individual contributor, and you have level 2 that is supervising day-to-day tasks. This is normally for the middle managers or executive. in IUM. And then managing functions, proficiency level 3. This is basically for our head of department. And also level 4, again for our head of department and also deans and directors. Level 5 is for our dance director. This is where they teach for these vice chancellors and all that. Okay, so just now I've mentioned from proficiency level 1 until 5. So when it comes to AI, okay, so we need to also, inshallah, and we have to work with the team, Dr. Noha and team, to come up with the competency dictionary when it comes to cyber security leaderships. Okay, because this is something that actually administrators can understand. Okay, when you have that kind of level of proficiency. So this also applied for the critical positions for our critical positions in universities. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about IM Leadership Center, which is inshallah, bismillah, will be deliberated in our next BOG number 72, this May 28, inshallah. So pray for the best, okay? So objective of establishment, part of it is to provide transformative leadership programs. We are talking about cybersecurity leadership, cultural intelligence, spiritual intelligence, CQ and cultural diplomacy. We also do research. We have grants now. We have lots of grants, alhamdulillah, from various sectors and from the government. And we conducted knowledge sharing sessions, not only with the staff, but also to our students. We do not want to highlight only on the theoretical part, but we want to walk the talk. We want our students to understand what values-based leadership is all about. Okay. This center will be also carrying out function when it comes to succession planning initiatives for our critical positions, right? Okay, these are part of our collaborators. Okay, we are talking about KICT, the Higher Leadership Academy from the Ministry of Higher Education. We are talking about collaboration with the Institute of Diplomacy and Foreign Affairs from Wisma Putra, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have partnership with College University Perlis and our internal partners, the students. Student centers, management services division basically is our HR office, and we're gonna have our Organization of Islamic Cooperation. We're gonna have our meetings with them, inshallah, in November. Okay, I've talked to Dr. Noha as well, and she's in the know. And yeah, of course, Propati and Sean would love to have collaboration when it comes to cyber leadership programs. And also for the National Institute of Public Administration Malaysia, and our IM holding the company under IIM and Perdana Leadership Foundation in Putrajaya. Okay, and we are looking forward to many more collaborations, inshallah. Right? Okay. I would skip this one. It's just that I will just highlight why this is the findings of what we did from the webinar of humanizing leadership. When you talk about humanizing leadership, we're talking about values-based leadership. We're talking about empathy. Empathy will come from KICT. KICT is heart. Okay, so you're talking about spiritual intelligence. Okay, and also this is part of how we want to derive the competencies in order for us to recognize strength and different competencies and abilities in others. So we are talking about DEI. DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. So that's why we need cultural intelligence. Okay, so I will move forward because we do not have much time. And cultural intelligence refers to capability of individuals to function effectively in a different nationalities, different races, different languages, and all that. So that is what we have in this university. Okay, so we want our students and all our staff, okay, to champion cultural intelligence because this is part of our fifth agenda in our roadmap. Right? Okay. Why secure? Secure will avoid conflict and misunderstanding. And if we understand others because of their different backgrounds and experiences, then we will understand why they are believing such, or why their action is not as per what we normally practices, right? Okay, we are also talking about spiritual intelligence, okay, but I will just move forward with this, because spiritual intelligence, if we want to have CQ and SQ, okay, after this, inshallah, probably we need to have more sessions with your staff and students, inshallah. Okay, because these are a vital foundation for us to understand what values-based leadership is all about. We can actually learn all the theories about all this, but then not understanding it rightly, we cannot practice it well. Okay, so these are about values and ethical and all the positive things that we need to really embed in ourselves and also practice with others. Okay, so the self-awareness when it comes to spiritual intelligence, so you know what is the meaning and purpose of your existence in this world, and then what values that you should carry, and why you should contribute to the Hablum minan nas and also Hablum minan alam. Hablum minan nas meaning that your relationship with other people and also your relationship with the environment, right? Okay. Now, moving forward, these are some of the transformative leadership programs that we have. I just highlight a bit. So we have cultural intelligence, spiritual intelligence, values-based leadership through competency-based talent management, cultural intelligence for cultural diplomacy, and now we also have a hebat diplomat for the pegawai takbir diplomat, that is the foreign diplomats of Malaysia, okay, in IDFR Wisma Putra. So we also partner with College University Islam Perlis. This is last month we had our competency-based talent management leadership program. So we were there, alhamdulillah. And also this is part of our program that that's me with the participants. These participants are from the Ministry of Health. But IDFR conducted the sessions, okay? So this is a 2-day course that I've conducted when it comes to intercultural communication and cultural diplomacy, okay? All right, this is also a talk on cultural intelligence that I have given to other participants in Wisma Putra. And this is cultural intelligence. I partnered with our Prof. Dr. Faiza from the Student Computer Center. When we talk about cultural intelligence, so we address to those diplomats before they are being assigned to other countries, right? Okay, now we had our forums last time, and Nancy was among one of the panelists. Okay, we have collaboration with many people, and this one is a roundtable leadership and insan sejahtera, where we address our sejahtera index in relation to leadership pattern. Okay, so we have our subject matter experts, we have Catherine Hoppers, we have Tan Sri Mazlan Osman, and we're going to have another roundtable discussion, inshallah, in June. Okay, so perhaps we would like to get Prof. Atif also on board, inshallah. Okay, all right. Okay, and these are some of the grants that we have, and we still doing now, okay, because it is we are conducting research and consultancy as well, right? Okay, why am I sharing this? This is one of our alumni, okay. As you can see here, Datuk Sri Muhammad Shuhaili, he is the Director of Criminal Investigation Department. He is now the intern, okay, where he really being the change maker in the police department, right? Because he's trying to make change and trying to do justice when it comes to all the procedures and the action what the police is doing and all that. So we want our alumni, we want more alumni like him, okay? Somebody that will carry the values for the betterment of our society, inshallah. Okay, because nurturing transformational leaders, we need heart, we need the cup, we need something from inside. It is not just merely a theory, but it is something that we really want to believe in. Okay, and we're talking about doing things for the sake and pleasure of God. Okay. All right. Okay. When you talk about all this, you need to walk the talk. So that's why I'm one of the facilitators, the instructors. All right, thank you so much. One of the facilitators and instructors for the Australian Action course. Okay, this is proactive and Sean. I taught them counterintelligence and also conducted knowledge transfer session for the cleaners and the landscape workers in IIUM, so that they'll feel inclusive in our society. And then whenever they serve us, then they will be part of us. Okay, so these are our students, and they understand what spirituality is all about and why we want to have values-based leadership. So just now I mentioned that we need to walk the talk, so this is it. Alhamdulillah. And it also applies when it comes to the employers of the choice. Alhamdulillah, now we received this award, Employers Choice of University, okay, by the Talent Bank recently. Okay, that's us. Okay, all right. So I think I just leave you with my annual quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is what values-based leadership is all about. How you print your whatever that you have in other people's heart. Inshallah. Thank you very much. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Zarina, for sharing with us about the Transformative Leadership Program at IIUM. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the highlight of our event. We are honored to have here with us Professor Dr. Atif Ahmad from the University of Melbourne to share with us today about cyber leadership in organizations and opportunities for cross-disciplinary research. Before we start, allow me to share with you Prof. Atif's short biography. Prof. Atif is a professor at the University of London's Faculty of Engineering and IT, where he serves as the Deputy Director of Academic Centre of Cybersecurity Excellence. He leads a unique team of cybersecurity management researchers drawn from information systems, business administration, security intelligence, and information warfare. He has authored over 100 scholarly articles in cybersecurity management and received over 6 million Australian dollars in grant funding. Additionally, Prof. Atif is an associate editor for the leading IT security journal, Computers and Security. He has previously served as a cybersecurity consultant for Wally Parsons, Pinkerton, and Kingston Knight Nurse. He is also a certified protection professional with the American Society for Industrial Security. Prof. Atif has been appointed as the visiting professor at KICT and has been leading a collaborative research project between IIUM and the University of Melbourne through a grant funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade Australia. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Professor Dr. Atif Ahmad.
Hey, Dr. Noha, and thank you so much to Ansri, Dr. Zarina, and to Prof. Norvik for this invitation. And thank you all for coming to this presentation. I am going to try to make this as interesting and as engaging as possible. And the way I'm going to try to do that is to maybe touch on some of the highlights of my story, which I hope that you'll find interesting or perhaps different. So I might just start then by first of all checking if I'm sharing. Again, because I tried sharing what to share. Again. Oh, I'm seeing the whole presenter. Okay. Wow. So what I'll do is I'll just do the normal. Yes. Okay. No worries. So the plan for today is I'm going to just very briefly talk about the University of Melbourne, and then I'm going to talk about cyber leadership and cyber resilience. And I'm going to give you sort of a bit of a story about how we got to this really awful position where nation states like Australia, like Malaysia, are extremely susceptible to the kinds of attacks that can bring the whole nation to a grinding halt. This is the really important story because although from the outside, it appears that this is a technology problem with a technology solution, it's actually not a technology problem. It's actually a leadership problem. And I will try to, as much as possible, convince you that the root cause of cybersecurity issues in the modern era actually come from the human leadership and the human condition. I use that phrase. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the amazing work that we're doing at University of Melbourne with IIUM. And I'm really excited about the work that we've done so far and the work that we potentially could do. I'm really looking forward to spending more time talking to Dr. Zarina about her leadership center and the possibility of us integrating the work that we're doing using the banner of the leadership center to do some things that we aspire to do with University of Melbourne. Right? I'm sort of looking forward to this collaboration because I think that there's a competitive advantage here that in IIUM that we don't have at the University of Melbourne. So there's a really good fit between some of the things that we don't have, that we need, and some of the things that IIUM has. Okay, I'll talk about that project very briefly. And then I wanted to talk about opportunities for cross-disciplinary research. Now, before I do that, before I actually get into this, I would like to know how many of you are not from IT, from a different department, for the people here. Is there anybody who's like in law, for instance? Anybody from law? No. Anybody from business? Anybody from psychology? No. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll probably then spend not a whole lot of time talking about the cross-disciplinary ideas. I'll maybe just touch on a few to just give you an idea of the potential for work in that area, and I'll speak more about the cyber side of things. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to go down that track. Okay, very quickly about the University of Melbourne. We are at the moment ranked number 14 in the world, US ranking. So we're ahead of Princeton, Caltech, Yale, et cetera, in 2024. We've always been in the top 50 for as long as I've been at the University of Melbourne, which is 26 years. And we have about 48,000, 50,000 students, of which roughly half are international students. We have about 3,500 in faculty staff. Gives you an idea of the scale of this university. We are, as I said, number 14 in the world, number 1 in Australia, and very much well respected within. We believe that we are well respected in the region. We'd like to believe that. We believe we've got a strong brand. So I like to talk a lot about brand, the university brand, because I believe strongly about corporate positioning and about how people see the role of a university and what its value and what its value proposition is. Like, why should somebody work with the University of Melbourne as opposed to from Monash or any other university? Here's some pictures. I'm sort of biased here because you see the picture on the top left-hand corner of a tram going down Sydney Road. I went down this road all of my undergraduate life. So I've been at the University of Melbourne since I was 18 years old. I did my undergraduate there, my bachelor's, science, computer science, bachelor's engineering, software engineering, my PhD there. And I've been an employee there, so I've never worked anywhere else other than the University of Melbourne, right? So it's part of my DNA, if you want to look at it that way. Right. So yeah, so I'm 50 years old now. I was 18 when I got there, and so I all this stuff there. But the University of Melbourne, as you can see in the images, has a lot of old buildings, but then it has a lot of new buildings as well. This is where I work. This is where Sean and I work. Sean and I have been working together for 26 years. He's been here maybe a couple years longer than me. Right. So we are part of the furniture at the university. We've been there forever. Right. We're thinking about graves inside the university because we're never going to leave, right? That was a joke. But this is a new building. This is Dr. Nuha and Dr. Hayani and Dr. Zahida and Dr. Skela. They've all been here. They were here recently. This is a $1 billion building, an innovation precinct. The the biggest innovation precinct in the Southern Hemisphere. It was built by Lend-Lease Corporation to bring industry, government, and academics together in the same building to try to get the integration of ideas. And it was a brilliant idea, except that it was open during COVID when it was there, right? And so it was only recently that we looked into the building that we didn't see the value of this. But it is a fantastic facility. I love working there, and I love working with people who are in that building. Okay, I'm not going to talk much about myself, except to say that I started off in a very technical way, thinking about cybersecurity as a technology problem. I spent most of my undergraduate life thinking about cybersecurity because I was fascinated by the idea of viruses. And when I started in 1993, there was no such thing as cybersecurity. There was just computer security, and there was this idea that somebody could program a virus that could jump from one machine to another machine without human intervention, right? And that was a new idea because we'd heard of human viruses, we'd never heard of a computer virus. What does that even mean? And as time went on, I became extremely disillusioned with computer science because computer science, their solution to every cybersecurity problem was encryption, right? Was some kind of tool. So I then, when between my undergraduate and my PhD, I went out and I trained as a bodyguard. And I learned from a lot of Army guys about what it means to protect somebody with your life and developing surveillance and situation awareness and tactics and all that sort of thing. So then when I went back to Marine, I said, right, we're not going to look like any other research group. We're going to create a new research team, and we're going to create a team whose job is to solve real world problems. You know, the real world problem in cybersecurity, it's not technology, it's human, right? It's about humans, it's about management, it's about organizations. And we turned into organization scientists rather than computer scientists. And we adopted the information systems banner because information systems best captured the integration between people, technology, and process. Right? Process is what represents the organization. So I became really excited about that, and we created a fantastic team. In our team, we have PhD students from the Army, mostly generals, colonels, etc. And we have PhD students who are top management consultants, so the heads of KPMG, EY, that sort of thing. So we only take on PhD students who will teach us something. We don't take on PhD students that need our support other than just research. Right. So the first question when we get a PhD student is, what can you teach us that we don't know? Right? We know a lot. And what can you bring to the team that we don't have? And so when I met Dr. Nuha in Chorus, the hotel Chorus, many, many years ago, the first question I asked Nuha is, what do you know that we don't know? And Nuha said to me, I've done a risk management project in the Malaysian government. I said, yeah, I'm kind of becoming it. Sorry. And so we took Nuha and we trained her, and we spent years working with her to try and develop our abilities in information systems. We're very happy with the outcome of that project, and we're increasingly happy with our production of today, in our work and her team's work. Okay, enough about that. I want to start talking about cyber now, cyber resilience. On the screen here is a very limited timeline that starts in 2010 and goes to 2021, and names or identifies some of the key attacks. And I don't want to go through the technicalities of it, but I do want to say a few things about this. As I said, originally, it all started with a virus. Then as time went on, we found that these cyber attacks became extremely organized, extremely sophisticated, and the threat actors, these humans that were doing these attacks, were increasingly knowledgeable and increasingly persistent. And one of the most interesting things that we noticed was that originally the viruses were created by people for marketing reasons. For example, this Pakistani shop called Brain, they first came out with a virus as a way to tell all the customers that we fixed your computer. The virus was just there as an ad. And then these hobbyists, these nerds, computer nerds, say that in the nicest possible way, who created these viruses to try to boast about their ability to knock on various companies, infiltrate their computers, and leave their messages, right? And they used to boast about that. And then, as time went on, this malware became increasingly sophisticated, where it started targeting nuclear agencies, right? So Stuxnet was probably one of the biggest known attacks, 2010, Iran's nuclear agency was infected by a computer virus that shut down its nuclear centrifuges. That was just the beginning. As time went on, we had Triton, actually we had Shamoon in 2012, which hit Saudi Aramco and brought down their significant part of the oil distribution. And that caused, it crippled Aramco. And we didn't have an inside story until we got a PhD student who applied to us, who was from Aramco and was there in 2012 and told us the story about that. And then I went to the Cyber Command Center in Aramco in 2019, and I looked at their operations team, and I realized how much they invested in preventing that from happening again. That was 2012, right? And as you go on to 2018, 2019, we had the Colonial Pipeline incident, where the oil distribution across the eastern border of the United States was significantly affected in price of fuel without and so forth. You had the attack of Ukraine. You found that now it wasn't just hobbyists, it was organized crime getting into this, and then it was nation states, right? And why are they doing this? Why are they attacking? There's a couple of motivations. It's not about boasting anymore. It's about making money. Right? It's about disrupting nations, so nations against nations, and it's about stealing intellectual property. Right? And Sean and I made a few movies about. We wrote a story about a pharmaceutical firm that was creating this drug, and by the time they got into, before they got to market, a competitor got into market by stealing their drug formula, by mapping out their labs, and by poaching their employees, and putting the pieces together and replicating this cancer drug. And we made 3 films about it. We won the London International Film Festival Award for Original Screenplay and 17 other film festival awards around the world. We're telling the story. I'm happy to give that if you haven't seen it. Happy to spread that around if you want to watch those films. They're very short, but they're worth watching. Okay, now, it is not very difficult to imagine the next stage of this, cyber, whatever you want to call it. I call it cyber Armageddon, cyber war, whatever you want to call it. Imagine this. If a nation state were to attack, let's just say Malaysia, in a cyber war, right? Actually decide to attack Malaysia, spend 6 months to a year studying Malaysian infrastructure, studying its vulnerabilities, studying its, the network of critical infrastructure services across the country. What do you think is going to happen? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go after the power grid, right? And how are they going to do that? They're going to get into some telecommunications firm. They're going to figure out how that telecommunications firm controls the power grid. They're going to get into the power grid and they're going to shut it out. They're going to burn it, right? I remember my first big assignment in consulting for Worley Parsons was a counterterrorism assessment of Melbourne CBD power grid. And I was shocked at this is early 2000s, at the interdependency between telecommunications and power, and between power and water, and power and gas, and power and everything, right? And so if you can imagine, if the power grid goes down in Malaysia, what's going to happen? You could be sitting with your family in a cafe having a nice meal, and suddenly all the lights are going to go out across the whole country, except for maybe your hospitals, your telecommunications, your banks, and all those critical infrastructure services that have backup generators. And they're only going to last long enough for the fuel to run. And the fuel and the oil distribution is also run by IT. So the first phase, no electricity, no ATMs, right? And the second phase, no telecommunications, no banking.
Yeah, what's that?
No WhatsApp, no phones, nothing, right? So you'll be at home, the lights won't turn on, you'll be looking around for cash because it's going to turn into a cash economy very quickly. And you're going to find no way to communicate with anybody, right? And you think that a lot of those infrastructure services are mechanical. They may have been 30 years ago, but now everything's digital, right? I call it the digitalization of everything. Every company has moved its mechanical, electromechanical, machines to a digital environment to the point where even swipe cards, keys are being replaced by swipe cards, right? And CCTV is replacing guards, and everything is digitized. So what does that mean? It means cyber Armageddon can happen. We're extremely vulnerable, and we're extremely vulnerable at every level, right? Because technology, it used to be segregated in one part of the world, one part of the sector of your economy, and now technology is basically the underlying platform for everything, right? Even pharmaceutical firms, they don't, they do a lot of testing on computers before they go to human subjects. Like everything is digitized now, which means if it's digitized and it's connected to the internet, it can be stolen, corrupted, and can be destroyed. So what's the broad societal challenge? Around 2012, 2014, Sean and I said to Sean, look, we as a research team, we have a responsibility to address the burning question that society is actually facing. And I think that the burning question is the asymmetry between the capability of these cyber threat actors to attack and the inability of defenders to defend themselves. Right? For me, this is the biggest question that our research team is thinking about. The first thing, everything is digitized. Second thing, you have these new threat actors that are extremely dangerous. They used to be just hobbyists, 14-year-olds. Now those 14-year-olds are 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds, and they haven't stopped. They're getting better. They've got a financial motivation. They're now in organized crime syndicates, or they're hired by nation states. Nations are throwing their resources behind cyber organized crime and cyber military units. And those teams are attacking private organizations. So it's not nation versus nation, it's nation versus private organization. Why? Because some nations think that stealing IP is good for their business, so they'll go to private enterprise and just steal their IP. Other nations are thinking, if I can reduce the level of trust in banking by disrupting the central bank, then that will increase inflation, and that will help me to bring that nation down, right? Which is happening, right? Our conversations with our colleagues, our former students who run or who lead banking strategy tell us that the bank is under, is being targeted because it increases inflation, because it decreases trust, because of management of large transfers, and because they're iconic, and these threat actors are very interested in coming after that. So what are we trying to do? As a research team, we are trying to understand how to level the playing field. How do we build more resilient organizations who can be attacked and who can survive the attack and bounce back? How do we build resilience in humans so that they can actually survive these very high pressure situations where they're under attack and they can make good decisions under adversity and bounce back? How do we do that? And we realized from a lot of our research that the vast majority of industry organizations are not actually interested in proving their security. They're not. Why? Because cybersecurity is a cost, not a revenue generator. And because it's a cost and it needs to be cut every year, it makes no sense for them to invest in cybersecurity. And this is the big contradiction, the big paradox, is that a nation state says, right, we're privatizing, let's privatize electricity, let's privatize banking, and then the banks and the electricity companies think, wonderful, let's make money, and they don't spend money on defense because it's expensive, right? So you see this contradiction, these competing priorities. The private enterprise wants to make money, so they reduce the cost of defense. The government needs them to protect the infrastructure, but it's not in the private enterprise's interest to protect its infrastructure. So what happens? We have this paradox. This is why we're so vulnerable. Because private organizations don't want to invest, right, in this. Okay, so who is responsible for cyber resilience? Firstly, it's the government. They come up with the laws, they come up with regulation. But the problem is the people who are coming up with the laws and the regulation don't have an understanding of cyber. They don't. The public servants, they just don't understand it. And a lot of the people who are writing these laws, lawyers, have never been trained in it. And even if they wanted to be trained in, law school does not provide cyber-related things. There's nowhere to go. The same with business. If you go to any industry organization, you ask the basic question, who runs this organization? The CEO runs the organization. The CEO has to make decisions about investing in cyber. Does the CEO understand cybersecurity? Of course not. Where did the CEO get their education from? From the business school. Does the business school teach cybersecurity? Of course not. Who teaches cybersecurity? The engineering people, the ICT people do. I'm looking at them right now. do we teach the cybersecurity graduates business so they can speak to business people and explain to them what's going on? Yeah. Do we teach them law? No. Right. Here's what's happening. This is all of our research as practice researchers. We see this problem in every organization. Walk into the organization, the first class citizens are the bankers, right? The people who make money, the revenue generators. The second class citizens are the IT people. The IT people can only speak one language: gigahertz, gigabytes, storage, bandwidth, right? Architecture, configuration. Speak to the business people. What do they talk? Market share, customer experience, right? Speak to the lawyers. What do they talk about? Regulation, law, compliance. What happens? There's a disconnect because these people, they have never been taught to speak to each other, and the problem starts where? First, engineers, they see the world through the technology lens, and they don't understand the business lens. The business people see the world through the business lens, they don't understand the technology lens. And there's a business IT disconnect, and if you want to know more about that, MIT Sloan School of Management has some amazing research that talks about the disconnect across the world. In every company across the US, Australia, UK, Malaysia, everywhere you go. And it comes from the fundamental way that universities are set up across the world. No integration, no understanding. Okay, so we understand the role of government, their laws and their regulation runs everything. They delegate the responsibility of cybersecurity to whom? Private enterprise. Private enterprise outsource the responsibility to technology vendors who sell them really expensive things, and they get their graduates from universities who speak technology and don't understand business. So what's the role of the university in this? The role of the university, most people say, is to train the people that go to industry. So they go, we want industry-ready graduates. This is what we talk about in Australia all the time, right? We talk about industry-ready graduates, and I talk to my colleagues about not industry-ready graduates. I talk about leading industry, not following industry. Industry has it wrong. They don't understand what they're doing with cybersecurity, right? They're heading in the wrong direction, and the reason why they're heading in the wrong direction is because the business investment. They don't care about it. So we need to produce a new generation of graduates who will teach industry how to think about cybersecurity. And that's what we do in our team. We develop new graduates with new thinking, and these graduates eventually go to the top of these organizations, and they help us by opening their doors and letting us study them and publishing really big studies and explaining to the next generation where they're going wrong. And that's a virtuous cycle. Okay. So very quickly, this is the team. This is the amazing team. Raise your hands if you're on the slide. Raise your hands if you're on the slide. Okay. For those of you who don't know who they are, you should know who they are. So what are we doing in cyber leadership that's going to change the world? We have two big projects at the moment in Malaysia. I'm just going to talk about one of them. And this came from a comment made by the then Chief Executive of the National Cybersecurity Agency of Malaysia, who said, I wish that somebody would train public servants to think strategically about cyber, right? And the comment was possibly an offhand comment, but we diligently wrote it down and then went to the Department of Foreign Affairs and said, you know what, there might be an opportunity to work with this amazing group of women in IIUM to try to build a program that's going to teach public servants who might end up writing a law, bill, or or regulation or policy around cyber to teach them how to think about cyber strategically. And they said, wonderful, we'll give you $500 million, right? Go and do this. So we started how many years ago? But about a year and a half ago, approximately about that. And the first thing we did is we got the team here at IIUM to go through the literature and find out what does strategic thinking actually mean, right? And we found out, to our surprise, that there's different kinds of strategic thinking. There is visionary thinking, creative thinking, intuitive thinking, systems thinking, et cetera, et cetera. And we discovered that in the literature, and we said, you know what? That's really interesting, but it seems like something's missing. What's missing? And this is where I get here. Ethical. There is no ethical thinking in the literature, right? And I thought to myself, you know what? this might be IIUM's competitive advantage. Because when we went back and we started collecting data, and we started asking the public servants, you know, when you came up with the surveillance countermeasure, what guided you in terms of, you know, what is ethical or unethical about surveilling your citizens? Like, where do you draw the line about what information you can collect about them? And the response we got is, oh, we got it from our very strong Islamic values. And we asked, did you consider the Chinese community and their values and the Indian community, their values? We thought, you know what? It would be amazing if there was an ethical framework that everybody could use. So we didn't use our personal frameworks, our personal guidance, but everybody was referring to the same guidance. And we thought, you know what? That is a contribution that the world does not have at the moment in leadership, right? We don't have in cyber leadership an ethical framework that can guide people so that we understand when the next generation of leaders comes up, what the shared values are of cyber leaders, right? So we added ethical thinking, and we added security thinking from our team, which is around adversarial thinking, thinking like the enemy, thinking like, what would they do? What would I do if I was the enemy? And trying to anticipate that. So what did we do? We did a literature review, we went to the public servants, we collected data, we asked them heaps of questions, we asked for their advice, and then we invited this amazing team to come to Melbourne, and they sat with us in Melbourne Connect. You know that beautiful building you saw in that image? They sat together in that building, and we started building the skeleton program for it. And then these amazing people went away and they built the program, and then we started working with them to refine it. And we're here because on Thursday, we are going to train, or Friday, or one at the end of this week, we are going to train 50 public servants from the Malaysian government on how to think strategically as a pilot study. And then, inshallah, we're going to come back in November for 150 more to try after we learn from our experience to train 150 public servants from across all the government departments.
Like the IT people.
No, that's the whole point. No IT people. We want public servants across all the government departments that are not working in IT, but are going to in some way or form, develop law, policy, or make decisions about cyber in their ministries. So not the minister, but the second in command, or the third. So their secretaries, undersecretaries. That whole layer of people, we want to train them, because they are the informal power behind the minister making all the decisions. So we think that if we can, with IIUM's help, train all of these people, and the cyber, there are 27 ministries that have cyber portfolios, we can create transformation in the Malaysian government, right? So we're very excited about that possibility. Okay. How much time do I have, Sean? 10 minutes? Fantastic. There are so many questions that we don't have an answer to. At the intersection between cyber and management, it's basically how do organizations, how do leaders strategize in cybersecurity? How do organizations behave when they're under cyber attack, right? When there's so much pressure, so much cognitive pressure on leaders to respond to a cyber attack, how do they behave? How do they, what drives their ability to respond or to defend? And I mean, these are my favorite questions because I'm actually an organizational scientist, and I spend all my time thinking about management practice, process, and leadership, right? So on the intersection between cyber and law, I'm very interested in the role of lawyers. When organizations collect threat intelligence and they use it and it's speculative, they could get into legal trouble if they use threat intelligence that's wrong. So what's the role of lawyers? What about if they collect information about their employees who are doing maybe wrong things and they infringe on the privacy of those employees? What are the legal implications of that? What about all the contracts that they have signed that are breached when an attacker comes and steals their information? Right? What about evolving laws and regulations? How do you keep up with that? And then what about international law, where threat actors are coming from different countries and you have no jurisdiction over it? How do you come up with legal frameworks or collaborative legal frameworks to have an understanding between different countries when you're being attacked by somebody who lives somewhere else? So these are some of the big legal questions. Psychology questions: what are the specific personality traits that we want in leaders? Right? What are the cognitive abilities that we want to use? How do leaders manage stress? How do they maintain resilience? How do leaders create an environment which is conducive to cybersecurity and loyalty and trust? What are the ethics and morals that informs the leader's decision making? How do leaders, apply these principles? How do leaders use ethical and moral values to promote social resilience? What kind of leader do we really want? And I mean, I wrote this in the morning today when I thought about Tansu, when we were saying about ethics. He's always talking about ethics and morals, And for us, that's very strange. Because in our university, we don't talk about ethics and morals. Well, you talk about ethics, but in a very narrow sense, right? You talk about privacy of people. You talk about we talk about ethics when we're doing research. When we collect data from humans, and we need to make sure that you're looking after their interests. And we're not asking them questions that will get them into trouble. But nobody asks the big questions about ethics, about morals. Morals seems to be a word that we try to avoid, possibly because there's no foundation underlying it that we can refer to when we talk about it. So I wrote this in the morning for Tansri and for Dr. Zarina, right? The cyber leader of tomorrow will be able to think strategically about cyber resilience, while anticipating threats and crafting robust cyber defenses and countermeasures, both in practice, in policy, or law. But the cyber leader will be able to navigate adversity guided by a strong moral and ethical compass that prioritizes the greater good over short-term gain, right? I don't know what that means, right? I know that it's a good thing, but if somebody were to say to me, explain to me exactly how a cyber leader can navigate adversity with strong moral and ethical compass. Give me an example of that. I would struggle. Like I would say, okay, I mean, one thing, there are a couple of obvious situations. A leader has to make a decision when, for example, let's take Malaysia as an example. If I was the head of, I don't know, choose a company, the head of Tenaga, electricity power grid, right? And I'm a business, I'm making money, and I see a threat actor is attacking the power grid. Should I act in the best interest of the nation, right? Or should I act in the best interest of my corporation, right? Which one comes first? And you might think, but aren't they aligned? Not always. Sometimes, and you'll see this very often, it is in the interest of the company to restore services without investigating, because it's expensive to investigate, right? But if I was prioritizing the country and I was worried that this is the beginning of a large-scale attack, I would want to know who the attacker is and what they're doing. And that's expensive. And the organization may not necessarily want me to do that. So I have to make a decision. It's a dilemma. But actually, it's more than a dilemma. At a nationwide level, it's a paradox. Because at the private enterprise level, you're telling the people, don't spend money, except in the interests of the corporation. Right? And the person is thinking, but hold on, I need to navigate this very difficult fine line between the interests of my corporation and my nation. And the fact that, let's say, if I'm a bank, the interests of the people whose money is in this bank and whose money might get stolen. So you need a leader who has an ethical, moral framework by which they, under pressure, can default to. Because you know what happens with ethics and morals, right? It gets skewed when you're under pressure. Right? When somebody puts you under a lot of pressure, and there's 10 people saying to you, no, you cannot do this, what happens? Under pressure, you go, okay, I'll go with the herd, with a group. Even when inside of me, the voice says that is not a good idea, right? What do I need to give this leader in order for them to make that hard decision to say, no, I'm in the minority, but I'm going to act in the interests of something greater, right? You've got to give this person not only a framework, but the moral courage to be able to act in that against adversity. Right? I want leaders like that. Yeah, I want leaders like that, and I think that I can't find another university that has in its constitution the need to have leaders like that. Right? So that's why I'm here, is because I feel like this is the one university which has in its constitution the imperative to do this. So it's not like, if I go to her, she understands me, but if I go to to Dr. Zarina, Dr. Zaina or Dr. Hayani, she doesn't know, everybody knows what I mean here, right? Because it's in the DNA of these, right?
Leadership today is a bond. Sorry.
Right, exactly. So why invest in training programs? This is my last slide, 3 minutes. I only need 3 minutes. Okay. Why? Because I think that there is this massive opportunity to collaborate between the University of Melbourne and IIUM. For Malaysia, having high-performing graduates with a strong moral compass is in its interest, right? And I have to say that it's not surprising. I mean, the Malaysian government already has a very strong moral compass, right? And I mean, I in Australia look up to Malaysia on many of these really key diplomatic, political issues, looking for leadership with Malaysia. And we find that Malaysia's government is providing leadership where other countries are not, right? So that's very heartening. But I think in Malaysia's interest, having more people, graduates with strong moral compass and with a framework that they can relate to. But for both IIUM and UOM, both of us, it's very lucrative to have an executive training program where you can bring in a whole layer of leaders from public service and from industry and train them to have this ethical moral framework. I think it's financially lucrative for IIUM to be charging these banks a lot of money because they take a lot of money, right? But it also works for IIUM as a branding opportunity. If people begin to associate IIUM and Melbourne Uni as two universities that provide evidence-based training with strong outcomes and produce moral leaders that clearly stand out in crises, and you never really learn about people until there's a crisis, right? You never learn until you travel with them, you do business with them, a massive crisis, right? Then you see the character of the person. In that situation, if IIUM graduates stand out in crises, then it will spread amongst industry that you want IIUM graduates in those leadership positions because they'll look after everybody's interests and they'll navigate that adversity. So there's an advantage of IIUM having that brand, Melbourne Uni having that brand, and then providing that evidence-based executive education. And also then it creates this virtuous cycle. Imagine that IIUM became famous around the world, not just in Malaysia, in multinational companies, for being able to produce graduates that withstand crises really well. You would be able to get a huge number of graduates not going to Harvard, coming here for this program, right? And then you would have an alumni network that would all work together and they would refer to you, they would open the doors to more opportunities, they would come here and relate their experiences, and then over time, what would happen is your brand would become, just like our brand, would become synonymous with leadership. And that's what we want, right?
A different kind of leadership.
Different kind of leadership, a better leadership.
Yeah.
A better leadership. So that's the thing. There is leadership out there, but there's no notion of this kind of leadership. Right? I don't think people have on their horizon that you need leaders like this. And I think that organizations don't value that leader who says, no, there's a better way, right? Organizations need to learn to trust leadership with strong ethics and morals. And that means you have to stand up in adversity, and that's what we want to do. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joseph Prof. Atif, for the very insightful presentation. So now I would like to open the floor for question and answer. So may I have the first question, please? So while waiting for the question, let me remind you again, make sure that you have scanned your QR code and click your attendance for today, inshallah. So for IUM staff, you will get CPD points, inshallah.
I'm going to ask Dr. Dixon. So, reflecting on what you just said, what would you change if you had to do it all again?
Change what?
Across what you just said,
The whole differently. What would I do differently? I would start at the beginning. So if you ask me in 2012 when we started our research, what would you do differently? I would start with ethics and morals and integrate that early on and not try to retrofit it later, right? Because when you try to retrofit ethics and morals, then it doesn't color everything you do. It gets compartmentalize. Oh, we do ethics and morals, but we also do these things. If we started with ethics and morals, it would inform everything that we do. And that's where we should start. We should start with ethics and then go security. And then everything we do is interpreted through the lens of ethics and morals. And I think that's a much more stronger, sustainable, foundational position that would have differentiated us. At the moment, we're the leading research team in the world in crisis management for cyber. But we have there is nothing in our research papers, in our 100 papers around ethics and morals, which is very sad. Really.
I can say, I think there actually is, because it's actually our intrinsic ethics and morals that come into our research and how we did the research, how we understood what was going on in the organization. So it's in there intrinsically.
It's not explicit. It's not explicit. But the thing is, somebody who reads our papers or all our research will never come to the conclusion that we have an ethics or morals-based framework, that they would have to extract it, and then they would have to formalize it, and then they would have to disseminate it. Whereas we should be the ones doing that. We should be formalizing it.
The problem coming from that is basically whose ethics and whose law.
Yeah. Yes.
This is why I think we grapple with this, and we are not, because we are an Islamic university, people will automatically say these people are very Islamized to them. There's one big word here about Islamization. That word, I talked to one of my European friends, when they see Islamization, they go to a panic button. So we need to kind of go. So what we have done now, that's why we use the word sejarah. It is not Islamic in a sense. It is a kind of a value within the community that talks about ethics and moral without associating with the religion per se. And guess what? Every community has got this. We've got sejarah, the African has got Ubuntu, the Japanese has got Ikigai, Swedish has got Lagon. Every community seems to have this value innate in them, named differently, but talks about the same thing. So we are trying to bring this together and say, for example, now, if I want to talk to another person, I need to identify my sejahtera and their ikigai, and they come together. It's a kind of what I call a human heritage framework that we have lost because we have been, leaving that behind. So we're working in that kind of a framework, the ethics and morals, so that this question is quickly answered. Then we can go into the deeper part of it. And we are trying also to differentiate between religion and spirituality. Have you got the book SDG 18? We just finished one SDG 18 spirituality. Because religion is about the ritual parts. Spirituality is about the values. The value that binds us together. You always talk about religion, how the Muslim pray, how the Buddhist does it, and we see it's also different. And we begin to emphasize on the difference rather than the common. The common piece of this is spirituality part. That's why we wrote SDG 18. We are trying to now bring that forward. There's a lot of people interested in SDG 18. There'll be a conference on SDG 18, I think. Somewhere at the end of the month. So, I mean, these are issues that we have gone through and we're quite happy to share with us now. But I think moral and ethics. And you also not talking moral ethics since old fashioned. I did one talk, and at the end of the day, I said, you are still talking about God, spiritual, and I say, yes, to them it's already old fashioned. It is not within the modern terminology, the language that we have. Any questions
from the audience?
Students, especially the beloved students sitting in the back.
Our beloved students.
I'm sure there also.
Yeah. Oh, I'll ask my question. YouTube.
I want to ask you, how will your friends take this kind of articulation in Australia when you talk about what morality, ethics?
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it. If you were to talk about it, what would the response be?
Yeah, it's shows the best of the barometer.
But the thing is that I've been accredited to for what, 27 years.
Probably will bring IIM.
Not at all. It's more a case of
When you learn this.
it has to be whole of nation, whole of world, and there are so many different beliefs and value systems. It has to incorporate all of them, not just one, not just two, all of them.
Yeah.
That's the key to this. That's hard because they're so different, but there's also a lot of commonality.
I would want to suggest if you go back to the Aborigines, their values,
Exactly.
you know, in training, things
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
People are more affiliated to that because it is almost fashionable now.
Yeah, I think that's, we need to come back and patch with that.
Yes, yeah, you know.
But even those values, there's values from the Muslims, there's values from the Roman Catholics, there's values from the other spirituals.
Yeah.
That are the same, right? And it's all about how do you live your life well? How you live it so you don't harm others.
But for us, it's difficult because Islamophobia now is an industry. You know, it's difficult to fight. So that's why we need to find other avenues and come back to Islam and then rather than this is we are Muslims and that's.
So talk about values, value systems.
Okay, I think we can go to the concluding remarks
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Prof. Nabil.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Very look at problem.
before we end our program, I have the pleasure to invite Prof. Dr. Nabil Idris, the Chief Digital Officer of IUM, to deliver his concluding remarks.
Okay, I'll be brief and short. It's already 4:30.
Thank you.
So, okay. First and foremost, thank everybody in the hall here as well as online for attending this session from the I would like to really appreciate and acknowledge the relationship that we have developed between IUM and UIM, Mr. Melbourne. I think based on what Prof. Atif made us excited about a few minutes ago, there's a lot of things that can be developed from this project, inshallah. On that note, I really like to express our sincere gratitude to Prof. Atif for his presentation. I think it's very exciting. It opened up a lot of new things on the multidisciplinary cross section of research or whatever. Because most of the time in computer science and so on, we keep thinking that cybersecurity is only technical. Whereas I think that is like almost seeing, you know, like a blind man seeing elephants. You only see a certain part of the problem. From all our experiences, we know that many issues in cybersecurity are not just technical. So I think Prof. Atif has raised that awareness more. And definitely, there are two things that I can understand from his presentation today. Number one is leadership. I guess we need a new breed of leaders, not the typical ones. Not only that they have to be imbued with new values, but or new thinking, but to me as well, there are many leaders who are what I normally call naturalists. No action, talk only. And we have this problem a lot in our country. We are quite good in conceptualizing and planning things, but on the implementation side, not many people can really deliver things that have been planned. So we need leaders to really drive such agenda across and make things happen. And I really feel that this collaboration between IUM and UOM, we are on that track. We are starting with the training of the public sector leaders in a few days' time. And we really want to develop a new breed of leaders who are capable to not only think differently, but also to be able to drive the agenda and make things happen. The other thing is you mentioned about the multidisciplinary cross-section between the research areas that have to be covered in this cybersecurity issue. So I guess, inshallah, the collaboration between UM and IUM, we can really do more. I'm really, really excited, although I didn't go to Melbourne. But I think we really have a lot to contribute to the country. I'm quite close with many of the friends in NACSA, cybersecurity and so on. I mean, they are just colleagues. And they have been expressing how they really need good leaders in cybersecurity in the country. I really, really want to make IIUM as the place that is well known for this. Like Proactive said, people should come here to learn and to be developed as new cybersecurity leaders for the country and for the community as well as for the Ummah and so on. On that note, I thank everyone. I thank Nasri and our friend from Melbourne as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all our intention and our initiative something that will be successful in the future. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Incidentally, the last UM in IIM is University of Melbourne.
Jazakallah khairan kathir from Nobik for bringing remarks, which marks the end of our KICT Intellectual Talk Series number 2, 2024. So as a token of appreciation, I would like to invite Prof. Norbik to give a basket to our Honorable Ministry Director.
I think we can do this.
Yeah.
No, we have a few more. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
And a token of appreciation to Dr. Zarina. The speaker from Prof. Norbik to Proactive. Last but not least, I would like to invite our beloved Dean, Prof. Dr. Morni Mahmud, to deliver the fruit basket to our beloved Prof. Norbik.
Hopefully soon.
Thank you so much for everyone. So Alhamdulillah, I would like to express my special thanks to Prof. Morni, as the lead of the KICT, Dr. Azura, the head of responsible research and innovation, Sister Laili, Sister Asnita, Sister Zuyati, Dr. Shuhairi, Dr. Zahida, Dr. Hayani, Dr. Suhaila, and all the members for organizing this event. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless all of you and inshallah for all. So thank you so much to everyone who are still here. Yeah. And also some of our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hoping that inshallah, we are hoping that this program will give you fruitful and insightful knowledge, inshallah. And together, let's make the cyber world a better place, inshallah, for both IUM and UOM. So let's end our program with Kafara and Surah. We can take a photo before we end, right? So please stay behind, right? And then we use the time perhaps can help to arrange the photography session, inshallah. So until then, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.